lights and cameras and mirrors.
Hey, it's your boy, Auteur Deluxe. Today, we're going to go over Todd Solondz's Dark Horse from 2011. This is kind of an underseen, underappreciated movie by Todd Solondz. Even for me, even within his fan base, this one kind of gets overlooked. So I decided to review it. If you haven't seen it, this is your spoiler alert. It is on Amazon streaming, Amazon Prime Video right now. So if you want to see it, that's one way to see it. I know a lot of people get mad even at the suggestion of Amazon because, Jeff Bezos is a horrible person. And, when you die, it'll be on your gravestone whether or not you were on the right side of history with like every issue. So if you don't want to use Amazon, that's fine. You can go find a Blu-ray or something. But that's where to find it if you're so inclined. And like I said, spoiler alert, so let's get into it. This is a very atypical Todd Solondz movie. Even for him, it's a weird one. And especially for him, it's a weird one because he's hot off the tail of Palindromes. He's hot off the tail of Life During Wartime. These are both, like, admittedly pretty art house films. Life During Wartime, the colors, like, drip off the screen. And in Palindromes, Aviva is played by, I think, 8 or 9 different people. Like, those are hard artistic choices that he decided to make. But he went the complete other direction with Dark Horse. He said he was inspired to make this movie by Judd Apatow. He did this in reaction to Judd Apatow. And it kind of fits that bill. This is a movie about a guy in Arrested Development, lives with his parents in his 30s. I don't know anything about that. But it is one of those kind of movies, like kind of aping a Seth Rogen thing, kind of aping a 40-year-old virgin thing. And so stylistically, the camera is very conventional in this film. The composition is very conventional. Visually, this is a very conventional film. And I think that's by design. I think Solondz is always talking about like wanting a broader audience, not necessarily a mainstream audience. But I think this was his way to kind of Trojan horse in his kind of myopic worldview, his pessimistic worldview. And he does that by, on the surface, you see the artwork. You even see like the trailer, or you see the cast. You have Christopher Walken, Mia Farrow. This is a movie that could easily pass on the surface level as, a romantic comedy. But then you get into the nitty gritty of it, and it's something very different. This is like an Apatow movie in that we're dealing with a slacker in Arrested Development, but that's where the similarities end. This is very much a worst of all possible worlds kind of trajectory for that type of person, which is a lot more realistic than any Judd Apatow movie. I think they all pretty much have happy endings. I saw 40-Year-Old Virgin. I think he ends up with the chick. So this is a very different movie once you get into the nuts and bolts of it. And Dark Horse, it's not just dark. All of Solondz's films are dark. This one's almost overwhelmingly sad. It's almost too sad. That's why I'd only seen it once. This is my second time seeing it, researching for this video. And in an interview, Solondz was saying that he made a protagonist to test the audience. He's almost fucking with the audience to say, can you get invested in this person? Can you care about this person? And it is difficult at times. There's only one real kind of sweet, touching moment with Abe, and that's after he's already passed away at the end. That little kind of moment where he's going through his childhood house, his current house, and looking where he wrote that he's going to be his dad's dark horse next to his, how tall he was line. But although this is an overwhelmingly sad movie, it's not a very cruel movie. Lots of dark movies can be kind of cruel and sadistic. I don't see that here. Every predicament Abe gets into is at least partially his own fault. His lack of motivation keeps him at his parents and at that job that he hates. It's his own fault that he's in that floundering relationship with Miranda. She's not even interested in him. She happens to tell him that on his deathbed. She's like highly medicated, still into her ex, and she's also in a state of arrested development. So she's not interested in him. He just shit isn't working on any level, and most of it is at least partially his own fault. So you don't really feel, it's not one of those movies where just the world is shitting on a person for no reason. And although the plot doesn't unfurl in that type of way, it's still devastating. This is still a very devastating movie. This movie is truly an elegy for a wasted life. In status, in career, in his standing in his family, in his relationships, he's a failure on every level. And you know when you're a kid and you see like Hellraiser or you see, I don't know, Star Wars with the trash compactor in A New Hope, and you sit there and you think, purgatory, that's the scariest thing. A demon is the scariest thing. Getting crushed by a trash compactor, that's the scariest thing. But no, actually, it's something like this is very scary because it's possible. Your life playing out and never achieving your hopes and dreams, that's very possible and even probable in a lot of cases with a lot of people. And it can happen in an instant. Abe goes from, pretty cushy life, doing his own thing, whatever, and not really evolving or anything, but he has a pretty cushy life. And then he goes from that to a horrific accident, a coma, he becomes an amputee, then he's jaundiced, then he's on his deathbed. Then he dies and they don't even get his name right on the fucking gravestone, or they don't get the date right on his gravestone. I think this is Solondz's darkest film because he's not really flirting with taboos like he does in his other movies. And his other movies have dark parts, like Mark's speech at the end of Palindromes when he's talking about free will and the lack of free will and how we're all going to die and that nothing means anything. That's a very dark part.
Ultimately, we're all just robots programmed arbitrarily by nature's genetic code.
Isn't there any hope?
For what? We hope or despair because of the way we've been programmed. Genes and randomness. That's all there is, and none of it matters.
And there's also just about everything that happens to joy in life during wartime, and happiness is pretty dark. But this movie, because he's not flirting with, pedophilia, he's not flirting with just making people pariahs. This is just sheer unadulterated sad. I remember in 2013 when I got my first office job, and you have this overwhelming feeling in your chest. It's like, this is it, my life's over, this is how it's going to pan out. And this movie, I feel, plays on that feeling and just takes it to the nth degree, and it just plays out horrifically. And although this movie's very depressing, I saw a review, they referred to Solondz as a miserablest. And I think that's very true. And like I said, his other movies have spurts of misery, but this is his miserablest. But I'm here for it. I love it. Filmmakers can make you feel a lot of different ways. Michael Haneke makes you feel particularly empty after you watch one of his movies, or particularly horrified after you watch one of his movies. Claire Denis, I just saw Beau Travaux, however you say it. I don't speak French. I just saw that this year. It's very artistic, almost like watching ballet performed, and that movie made me feel a certain way. These Leos Carax movies I've been watching this year, those have made me feel a very certain way. But there's no filmmaker that you can walk out of his movies the way you feel after Todd Solondz movie, and I feel like this is a very high entry on the list. This is very effective in that way. You are just devastated after you watch this film. And I've been fascinated by him ever since I first saw Happiness when I was 15. Anyway, Merry Christmas.
Get